You are acrylicing wrong, and I'm here to fix it. I'm here to fix the acrylicing issues of this world. There are certain things, certain go-to things that acrylic painters do every day, and they don't know that it's ruining their lives. Yeah, it's real. I'm going to go through some of them today, some of the ones that I think are one of the more common mistakes that happen with acrylic painters. You might disagree, you might say that's a no duh, but I can't hear you either way. So, I'm going to get started with number one on my list. It's not really like a countdown. This isn't actually like a real video. You are using the wrong brush. Did you know that? Yeah, you're using the wrong brush. With acrylic paints, it's important that you use synthetic filament instead of natural hair. Now, those of you that have been following my videos know that I preach about using synthetic brushes all the time. However, that being said, with acrylics, it really is, the preference should be synthetic, especially because they're now so diverse. We have, so like these are like Mimic Hog and Mimic Kolinsky, and they're legit. So if you want to paint thick impasto acrylic paint, Mimic Hog. If you want to do some fine detail, Mimic Kolinsky. And, there are very few long handle Kolinsky brushes, if any. They're all red sable. So, like, this is mimicking, and it does a really good job, some of the higher quality ones. And then this is our Power Krill, which is somewhere in between. It's soft like the Mimic Kolinsky, but not coarse like the hog bristle. So, so if you're using a natural hair brush, you're going to be causing it some damage. It's a lot easier to clean off a synthetic brush. It's plastic on plastic, like the way I like my action figures. Plastic on plastic that it will clean easier than natural hair brushes, and it also won't potentially stain as bad on the filament if that's something that bothers you. Is this off to a good start? I don't know. All right, who's ready for a big number two? You're probably doing this right now, and I want you to stop. Don't do that. You just don't do it. I mean, you could do it for a second, but don't leave it in there. Don't you know what will happen if you leave it in there? Well, I'll tell you something. Unless you're using those creative inspiration brushes, these handles are made of wood, okay? The wood is going to soak through this lacquer finish, swell, crack, and make it look ugly. So there's also another thing besides the fact that it cracks, is that, I've mentioned before, like properly storing your brushes. The ideal is to kind of like hang them upside down, but much rather prefer, but much easier is to lay them flat. When you leave your brushes in the water, in addition to threatening the handle, you also are kind of causing a little damage to the hair over time. So that's just a simple thing. Just stop doing it, okay? And you'll be smooth sailing, okay? I think we should move on from brushes. And these ferrules, that's a good point. Let me pick up and that's a good point. These ferrules, although they are crimped, well, show them the crimp. So this is a double crimp, where this machine but inside here there's glue that's holding the bristles in, glue that's holding the handle to the ferrule, and that will loosen easily if left in water, especially if it starts to split or crack. Another thing that's good about brushes, after I've said that we should move on from brushes, another thing that's good about brushes, and this isn't really a mistake, but when it comes to a synthetic brush, they are generally a lot more resilient to soaps, to different kinds of cleaners. There are no natural oils in it like there is a natural hair brush that can be stripped. So like you could literally use like dish soap with this, I would probably still put some kind of conditioner in it, but I don't even know if that's necessary. You can use any kind of natural soaps, like there's like the Chelsea Classical Studio lavender soap. Just get it on there and just kind of reshape the brush, and then let it sit on there, until your next painting session. And once you're ready to start painting, take it out. Like if you've ever gotten a new brush, you know that they come kind of like starched, right? That's to protect them in shipping. So just like you would like a new brush, that conditioner might give it a little bit of a covering, something like that. So just make sure that you rinse them off before you start. And you are making a humongous mistake if you are not cleaning your brushes after every painting session, okay? Yes, there are certain things you can do. You can, like I said, make this horrible mistake. Some people go so far as to wrap their brushes in plastic. There are even little caps that you can put on a brush that basically keep water in it. So imagine a little test tube kind of fixated to it. I imagine that those are very good if you're a plein air painter, but if you're a plein air painter, most likely you're not using acrylics. It's possible, but most likely not. I would highly recommend cleaning those brushes after every painting session immediately. It will dramatically increase the life of your brush, regardless of natural hair or synthetic. There are only two appropriate places for water in acrylic painting, okay? Only two. Any more, you're acrylicing wrong. First thing, you do not ever, absolutely cannot use water as a medium, okay? What do I mean? This will easily thin acrylic paint. That's not the problem. The problem is when the water is introduced, you're breaking up the acrylic polymer. And when that happens, the paint loses its flexibility. The paint will not stay water proof when dry. All kinds of issues come when you use water as the medium. There are plenty of mediums out there that do a fantastic job, and probably even a better job than water, to either thin your paints, thicken your paints. It's very hard for water to thicken your acrylics. Thin your paints, make them smoother. Like this is Lucas's medium, acrylic medium 1. So if you want to thin out your paints, or maybe you just want to extend them a little, you need to use an acrylic polymer, because that is going to keep the acrylic emulsion intact, okay? Very important. If you're using water as a medium, you're doing it wrong. So I said two things, right? Second thing, big mistake that you make when using acrylic paints. Acrylic paints dry so friggin' quick, okay? Like super quick. If you leave it, like if I walk away from this, in fact, let's just stop rolling and let this dry up a little so I can show people. Let's do that. All right, we'll be right back. Acrylic paints, as I've said before, dry so quickly, it's embarrassing for them, really, in all honesty. I think that if you've ever used acrylics, you probably have experienced this, that if you've let it sit out like we've had, it starts to get this skin. Are you seeing that, Will? Am I blocking it? You see the skin? It's like pudding. I like the skin on pudding, but not on my paints. I won't be eating this. And why is that a problem? Well, it's going to, first of all, and actually probably most importantly, it's going to change the consistency of your paints, and it's going to give you like clumps on your artwork. You don't want clumpy artwork. That's something I learned, again, in college. So to prevent the clumpage, let me clean this. Okay, so in order to prevent that, what you need to do is using a misting bottle. Okay, not just like a spritzer, like, when your cat's misbehaving. This is a spritz bottle. But you know what I mean. Those things where you're like, bad cat. I don't do that, but I've seen it. I think it's funny. I'm not a cat person, so I'm happy getting them wet. In order to prevent the paint from getting a skin, you want to lightly mist it every few minutes, because more than likely you're going to be painting, if you're going to take the time to get set up and do all your painting, you're going to be missing, you're going to be using your paints longer than 20 minutes or so. So what you want to do is every 5 to 10 minutes, very lightly, very lightly. This is number 2, by the way, finally getting back to that. The second appropriate place to use water is just mist them, okay? The water helps prevent it from drying, prevents it from skinning. Just that much. You don't need to use a lot. There are things, I don't know if it's like, if you're really worried about that acrylic emulsion, there's like this palette wetting spray which kind of does the same thing, but it has polymer in it. I haven't used this personally, but I'm sure it has its place. I'm sure it does. But I don't know my place in all this. Misting your paint will prevent a lot of waste, because if it does skin up, it will cause an issue. And, if you're going to be taking a break, for, let's say, lunch or something, using a covered palette, an airtight palette is helpful. Another trick that some people use, because it's air that causes the drying, is covering it with like saran wrap or something like that, or some kind of, is saran wrap a brand name? I don't know. What is it? Plastic wrap. Yeah, plastic wrap. Press and seal. Yeah, I like that. That's fancy, because then you can kind of just like trace your finger around your blob of paint, forming a little. You don't want to have a bubble because there's air in bubbles, but nonetheless, press and seal is great. The other thing moving on to something a little more serious, okay, because this is something that is a little confusing to most people, and I've done entire videos on this topic alone. But for an acrylic painter especially, understanding the difference between a medium in varnish versus a solvent-based varnish, okay? Now, why should you use gloss? Now, this can be used as a medium to thin your paint, just like that Lucas stuff I was showing. But it can also be used to varnish your paint. But it's not really a varnish, in my opinion. What you're basically doing is unifying the entire sheen of it with whatever sheen you choose. Gloss, medium, gloss, matte, semi-gloss. Now, I will kind of correct myself slightly now that weird noise has stopped, hopefully. There are some acrylic varnishes, so not solvent-based varnishes, and they're not all like in spray cans, that in addition to unifying the sheen, will also provide, if it has it in it, UV blockers, a little bit of protection from the sun or light. Not so like the Jerry Studio does not have any UV blockers in it. There are some out there that do. However, again, I say that these are still not really varnishes. A varnish, in my opinion, is really, I don't know what the official definition is, but it's designed so that you can clean and protect the original painting. So in order to do that, you need to be able to remove that varnish to clean off all the elements that have kind of settled on it without damaging the painting underneath. So if you're using an acrylic varnish on top of your acrylics and not using a solvent-based varnish, you're not going to be able to clean it as the dust collects on that over time, or all the elements as it gets to there's reasons that there's people that are professional art restoration, it's a thing. Using this kind of varnish is fine to unify the sheen if you have some colors that seem to be a little bit more glossy than others, or some colors that are a little more matte than others, and you want it all to look nice and even. This is the thing to use. And then on top of that, you should put on a solvent-based varnish, because that can be removed without damaging the paint, where this is like basically glue on glue. Acrylic polymer is essentially what glue is made of. But you cannot remove it once they dry because they merge together. The last thing I want to touch on is some common misuses of acrylic medium. Most acrylic mediums, gel, well this isn't it, gel medium, this open medium, gloss medium, they are easily tinted. They're just basically like whatever's in here without the pigment. So to add paint to it, it will easily tint to that shade. However, there are some mediums, like modeling paste, where there's things like, marble dust. They put all kinds of stuff in these. Now, let me just kind of give you this example here. So here's some modeling paste. And what I see happening, and do I have a, here, I'll just use this. It's not the same consist. Oh, Katie, it's closed. Look at that. Pick a color, Will. Should we use phthalo blue?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So phthalo blue. This is probably going to be the hardest for me to make my point with because the tinting strength is so high. But nonetheless, I promised you that I would do this. So we will try it with the phthalo blue. If you're going to mix mediums and your paint together, you have to be careful not to mix them. So let's see what happens when we mix that phthalo blue with just a gloss medium, okay? It just basically extends that color and does not alter the color that much at all. Okay, that still looks like a very similar blue. Maybe, I don't know, slightly thinned down, but I think that's pretty head on. Now, contrary to that, things like modeling paste, try mixing color into that. So we'll start with a little bit because again the tinting strength is so high. This is a solid white product that does not dry clear. The marble dust or whatever that's in the medium does not dry clearly. It stays the color that it is. The acrylic polymer around it might, but nonetheless, this is going to lighten your paints, and it's going to turn this to like a Carolina blue, and nobody wants that. You went to UNC. Where are you going?
We should claim UNC.
Obviously, you can see that there is a discrepancy in the color, even using that phthalo. I mean, okay, I didn't use nearly as much paint. Let me go ahead and just load that up. You can't change the fact that the white of the medium will not dry clearly. So the paint will always look a little off. So how do you properly use modeling paste? In my opinion, you can tint it. Don't get me wrong. Maybe you like this color. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You can tint it. But if you want intense color, I don't know why I had to get so intense. You apply the modeling paste, you let it dry, and then paint over it. Isn't that magical? That way you're getting the most intense colors, but still the benefit of the modeling paste, which is designed to give you body. I mean, this is heavy. You know, it's heavy. There's real something in there. I actually had one other thing. Two other. I have 18 other things. The number one, no. Okay, everybody wants number one, and I said that these aren't really numbered. But if I could think of just one thing where I'm like, stop doing it, is using hair dryers to dry your acrylic paintings. Okay, what happens when you use a hair dryer? The heat is evaporating the water from the surface of the paint, and that will start to dry. But then once that dries first, it kind of traps in the moisture of the paint underneath it, which is not good. Let's just put it that way. That's not good. Is there paint on here? No, I just felt paint, which is just not good. Okay. You want to make sure that you take the time to let these things air dry. Again, they don't take that long to dry to the touch. I mean, a normal application of acrylic might be dry within 15-20 minutes easily. But again, a lot of people want to accelerate that, and where it is sort of more okay is if you're using like watercolor, but we're talking about acrylic today. Watercolor, fine, dry that paper because otherwise it's going to take a while. When it comes to acrylics, a hair dryer is going to cause shrinkage, crackage, and brokage. Three things that define me. You want to make sure that those hair dryers stay in the bathroom. That's the point. That's the message. And I think that the second biggest mistake you can make, and it's funny, I'm saying this second to using the hair dryer, is not buying from Jerry's. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I think it's a mistake. Now, maybe some of you live in, I don't know, Costa Rica or something, and shipping's incredibly outrageous. But for those of you in the United States, I hope that you appreciate all the different things that we bring to the table. Somebody's calling me during my pitch. It's my wife. Hold on. Why do I say that? Obviously, I'm biased, but I really believe that we've got a very unique assortment of paints from all around the world. A lot of products we really, I think, do a good job thinking outside the box and trying to create new ways to save artists money. And this is getting a little preachy. I don't. We might not use this. You might not be hearing this, so just keep that in mind. You're not hearing this. But there is some really great stuff that you can only get at Jerry's. And if you are in the United States, why aren't you shopping with me? Why are you watching my video and not shopping with me? That's what I want to know. Yeah, answer me that. Put that in the comments below. Don't do that. Don't do that. No. Below, what do you think are some of the biggest acrylic mistakes that are being made, and how can we fix it? Okay, because I'm just touching on a couple here, all right? And some of you guys might be like, screw you, I'm using my hairdryer. Hey, it's up to you, I'm just telling you it's wrong. That's all I'm saying. It's absolutely wrong. Not an opinion, fact. You can't do it. You can't do it. You just can't do it. I mean, you can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. That's probably what I should have said. It's kind of a mistake to use the wrong brush, and probably a bigger mistake to use a hair dryer. A bigger mistake, not shopping at Jerry's. But I think the biggest mistake that acrylic makers will make is not following me on Instagram at Mike Not Jerry. Yeah. Did you like that? Christina laughed. Okay, cool. Where hopefully Jamie will have something creative for you soon. No, it's all kinds of fun stuff that I put up there, behind the scenes outtakes, because I say some crazy shit. Oh, I just said that, didn't I? Beep that out. That's right. But the line is, I found your son's dog. But they beeped out found.
I f***ed your son's dog.
Second best is Sesame Street. They had Elmo, or Grover, the blue one, Grover. I'll eventually learn these. L's not quite in Sesame Street yet, but hey, it's on HBO now. Who knew? What was I just talking about? Yes, Grover. He's with this little boy, and he asks the boy, how big is your car? And the boy goes like this.